Okay, hola. Sancti, this is Aya Toyota coming to you with some magical information, some spiritual vibrant information to share. I was actually coming on here. I wanted to make a video earlier before I settled down for before the stars fell upon us and whatnot, in the evening came, the evening star came upon us, but I got busy with other things, and so that didn't happen. I had everything set up. I had a plate, I had candles, I had 7-day candles, I had statues, I had props and everything, examples from my spell, and just examples of what I want to show. What I really wanted to show was more like just some basic tips, actually, but I just want to say on here, okay, this is YouTube, this is the community where there's so many witches on here, and the community of witches on social media, it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows, and the spiral dance continues on forever, and we're all in allegiance, whether you're in the goddess and the cult of the goddess, or whether you're in Hecate's mysteries, or whether you're in the cult of Dionysus, or whether you're a Gardnerian priest or priestess. It doesn't make a difference. We're all on here being supportive, and most witches, whether you're a dark witch or a light witch, or you don't consider or judge either way, we don't judge other people, right? We're here to harm none. So I go back to the saying, my circle is open, um and it is receptive, and it harm none. But I am not passive within my circle. I'm just very, very, very dismissive, and I'm very spiritually charged. So we just had a new moon, and we had the eclipse, and I felt so energized. That was perfect for me. That was absolutely perfect for me. Um Dark Goddess definitely shared mystery with me, and it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. So yeah, this is Aya Toyota on here, and I'm just on here sharing magic with people, and just some beauty, some spiritual enlightenment, if you will. I'm not out here to be Dalai Lama or Buddha, but I'm out here to share in the gospel, maybe of Aradia, and in the Homeric hymn, if you will, right? So this is me. Okay, so I had everything set up earlier. Um and like I said, my circle is open and receptive, and it harm none. And we're not on here to judge or bash other witches or priestesses or sages or shamans or priests or anyone of the sort, or wise women or cunning folk, because we just don't do that in the spiritual community, right? So I had all my props set up. I had rice, but I want to start off with, okay, so we're in an age where everything is becoming non-repressive, right? Everybody's trying to find their balance, their perfect balance and harmony. Like we have so much in every community that's going on in terms of acceptance and leadership and growth, and there's been backlash, and there's been a whole huge load of turmoil, right? So I am just on here to say, don't be so opposing, and be open. And if you don't like something, you can reverse it. Anybody knows how to do that. Like, most people, when they're hit with an energy, they just don't even take it in. Like, it's whatever. That's just natural. That's a natural human thing to defend yourself or have your walls up. So I'm just on here to say, don't war. Like, we all have our days where we're pissy and we're pissed off and we're upset, and whatever the case may be, we get upset, right? Even witches, even the Buddha. It took Buddha years to reach the level of enlightenment that he wanted to, and it took the Dalai Lama and Krishna just as many, and it took a lot of the it took Theocrates and Socrates and many of them to will themselves to overcome their mental anguish and their physical anguish, right? And attain of the knowledge that they needed to attain. So I just want to say I had some tips to share. I didn't get quite to the point of sharing them that I absolutely wanted to share. But I just, yeah, so I'm on here. Okay, so I want to say this. I am a Roma witch. Like, I'm Roma. I am Romany. I am like a very small percentage in I am Romany, and we're loud. We're very loud, and we're very boisterous, and that's just how Roman witches are. They're just loud, right? It's always a celebration, right? It's always a Saturnalia. At least for me. So I just want to say, like, tomatoes, that's something that I use quite a bit. In love spells, tomatoes are always used. At least in Italy, by the Italianos. Um, Tomatoes, stewed tomatoes, and add your spices and your chili powder. And this is a secret that was taught to the Roma witches, knowledge that is being passed down, right? And they always do that. Add their chili and their onion, and that's actually how the start of chili was made. It was very prominent in Rome, and in Roma, and it was actually very prominent in Europe, and it became to be a potpourri almost, if you will, right? And so you take your tomatoes, you stew your tomatoes, you add your chili powder, you add your parsley, and you add your green onions, and that was kind of like a love spell, right? And that's going back in the old days, and it was used by the poorest of witches, and it was something that added a little bit of passion and love to the home, so that way everybody got along and had their sanctity and their peace, right? And had their happiness. And if you're a hearth witch or an old school witch, an old world traditional witch like I am, you stay at home and you study and you learn and you spread. And when you go out into your community, you're either praised by your community or hated by your community. A lot of New Day witches are loved by their community because they have so much recognition. It's beautiful. It's the New Age thing, right? And then there's the traditional witches like me who are really, really traditional, really, really old world, and we're still hated. I'm still hated by my community because I'm so outcasted. I'm so boisterous, and that's, like I said, it's the Roma in me. But that's something that we did. And another thing, I'm also Indonesian as well, and in the East, it's just very common that if somebody is when people were burned at the stake, whether it was gender norm issues or anything else like that, it was the hard, like their punishments were harshest, and that's why you were taught to meditate before you go into the next life, and you were always preparing for the next life no matter what, because you had to have the mental discipline in order to become a samurai. And so a samurai, right? So that's kind of what would happen. Like, we meditate, um especially at the temples in Bali, in Indonesia. They always meditated and blessed themselves with the water. And the water was actually that drips from heaven, was seen as a blessing, such a blessing from God, from paradise onto the gardens of the gardens that were in the east there, because it was it was just seen as an arraignment from God. Like, it was so beautiful, as to the opposite, whereas today you're always told, or at least I've always been told, well, that's the angels crying. That's Mary's angels. That's Mary's angels crying. Well, it wasn't like that, in ancient Indo-China, before any of the wars happened. In Bali, when the temples were built, and we used to go into the temples and meditate and whatnot. We always it was always seen as such a blessing. Rain was such a blessing. It filled up our fountains. It was seen as a blessing from God, and life force literally came from water. And that's what fed the food of the gods of Bali, that lived in the garden, right? And there were many of them, and they're actually secret at this point. You have to really study on them, and with the way today's world is, it's actually not as easy to get that information. Bali is really their temples are not open to the chaotic, because it's ancient, and it's Tibetan, and it's Buddhist, and it's Hindu, and it's so strict, and it's so strict, and it's even so strict that they just, because it's like a paradise there, it's such a paradise there, and they have their temples, some of their temples are built on high mountains, to show a beautiful paradise on earth. And so that's kind of my ancestors did that. But besides being Roma and Indo-Chinese, um a little bit, I am, Nigerian, and so I'm Nigerian, and I have family from the west and from the south, and we just we're we're conservative. They're very conservative, very Christian. My family, my father was, and I get my main gift from my father, and they're just all very Christian, and that most of them were pastors, as a matter of fact. Like they were pastors. They preached the gospels of they preached the gospels of Jesus, um and that's kind of how they were. But my mother um bore me into eclecticism, and that bore me from there. My spiritual practice turned into the craft, and so I became a gifted and talented witch. That I like to think, don't be boastful of your gifts. If you're truly gifted, that's what the highest leaders always teach you. But yeah, so those are two tips. And they always used rice. Like if there was any form of sacrifice, like somebody was burned at the stake or anything, for anything that they did or whatnot, because it did happen in Indochina. It was just the natural law and order because of karma, and the fact that everybody had to be so disciplined and trained for so many lives and reincarnated in, because you're talking Hinduism and Buddhism, and Balinese paganism. So they used, whenever somebody was burned at the stake, they always poured rice on them. It was very cruel. It didn't help the burns, but it helped them enough. If you couldn't find taro or palm trees like you could in Hawaii, which, like I said, I have family from the west. um if you couldn't find taro, or not taro like the cards, taro, I know it's my accent. You take palm leaves, and you take sap from a special tree, and you would wipe the palm leaves down, and you'd spread it with taro, or what is found in the tree sap, and then you would place the healers, the shamans of the islands would take the palm leaves, and they would press them to the wound, and it would numb them enough to heal them. And it would typically take about a week before the wound was, well, it depends on how deep the cut is, but it was very numbing. And the tree sap itself in the palm tree was such a suppressive and a sedative, such a sedative. That's the word I'm looking for. I had to think. It was such a sedative to a sedative to the wounds, and so they used taro quite a bit. That's one thing I can remember. There's other things, like I said, in Roma. It was so simple. Roman, which is Italian, which is um whether you're just European, which is, we literally, like, it's the whole cauldron, you know what I mean? Like it's European witchcraft is often looked at as being the supreme, the prime melting pot of the crafts and magic and witchcraft, from the Fey folk, which I don't work with at this point, um all the way to, they even had Ginny because they had giants, and whatnot. They had Bean C Day, which are still seen as Fey folk, and kind of like Jinn, or that is found in Sahir, or Omani magic or medicine. Um, if you're Omani or Arabic, like there is like very few Arabic witches that I have met, but when you come across them, they're beautiful just like any others. They're amazing spirits. They're beautiful people, right? They're healers. But Europe is known to be its own a strong melting pot of witchcraft and so many stories, and such an abundant amount of stories